It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. So glad you're joining us for the next 30 minutes or so. We've got an action-packed show for you, talking about all the good things going on at the University of Louisville, the great research, the great students, and the programming that's out in the community at the U of L. So what do we got? All right, first a little news from U of L. We received word that U of L is one of the top 100 universities in the world for being awarded patents on research being developed into products at U of L. That's a big deal for us and goes to what research is all about, getting it from the lab to the street where it's useful and helps people. Coming up on this show, we'll be talking to Allison Banks. She's a top student at U of L who won a big scholarship and just returned from Jordan. She'll talk about that experience. We'll also chat with a U of L marketing professor who's done some research on karma and how that impacts a person's willingness to volunteer or help others. But first, some doctors at U of L have developed a way to detect lung cancer and the recurrence of lung cancer without an X-ray, CT scan, or invasive surgery. What is it? Well, Dr. Victor Van Berkel is a professor in cardiovascular and thoracic surgery at U of L, works at the James Graham Brown Cancer Center, and Aaron Schumer is in the Department of Surgery. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about what you have discovered or what you're working on in terms of detecting the recurrence of lung cancer.
Sure.
Why don't you talk about it, Victor?
Sure. So our group, as you mentioned a little while ago, has developed a breath test. So it's a test where someone breathes into a bag, and then we look at the chemicals in that breath, and we've been able to determine with pretty good accuracy whether or not somebody has lung cancer or not. Recently, we just published a study that looked at patients who had lung cancer that we then did an operation and took that lung cancer out. And what we were able to show was that the chemicals that we've been monitoring basically went back to normal after the cancer had been removed. That does a couple of things for us. One, it is basically a confirmation that we're actually measuring something from the cancer. We take the cancer away and the molecules go away. But also says that maybe this is going to be a way that we can follow cancer afterwards. Sort of like for colon cancer, people get a blood test called a CEA. Mm-hmm. This would hopefully be something similar where we could follow somebody's breath after an operation and be able to tell whether or not they were getting in trouble from their cancer coming back.
Right, and it's an easy way to do it. Is that the deal, Aaron? It's just that this is an easier way that I don't have to come in and get a chest X-ray or something every year or something. Is that the bottom line?
Yeah, it's much easier. It's a non-invasive test, so the patient only has to breathe into a bag and then they're done. It's cheaper than getting a CT scan, which is normally how we follow patients. So it's just a lot simpler and less costly for the patient.
And when you were doing this testing on the recurrence, could it also tell you what the likelihood of recurrence is, or just test and tell you, no, it's not coming back?
Right. So unfortunately, really the best marker for the likelihood of recurrence is how bad someone's first cancer was. So if it was a really tiny cancer when we took it out versus if the lymph nodes were involved. And the breath test is really, for us, it's more of a yes or no. We think the cancer is there, or we don't think the cancer is there. So the best we could do afterwards is screen somebody, look at the breath test and say, well, it looks good. We don't think there's anything there now, but it doesn't allow us to predict into the future from there.
And what do you do, Dr. Van Berkel? What do you do on a daily basis? You're a thoracic
surgeon? I'm a thoracic surgeon, so yeah, the majority of my days are spent cutting cancers out of people.
That's a good thing.
Well, it's one of those.
Most of the time, I assume.
Well, it's a very gratifying job, and I do love what I do, but it's one of those strange jobs where you wish you didn't have to do it anymore.
Right.
Lung cancer is obviously a huge problem in the United States as a whole, but in Kentucky in particular, we have the highest per capita death rate from lung cancer in the United States, and most of that is because there's still so much smoking that goes on here. And obviously, if we can figure out a way to minimize the number of times that I need to operate on people, I think that would be in everyone's best interests.
Aaron, what do you do?
I'm a general surgery resident, so I'm still in training. I'm hoping to be like Dr. Van Berkel.
You want to be a thoracic surgeon? You want to go cut cancer out of people, huh?
Yep.
Maybe work at the Brown Cancer Center one day or something
maybe.
like that? Yeah. Maybe. What have you found in your studies at U of L when you've looked at this lung cancer, this new breath test for lung cancer? What have you discovered as a student? What have you learned?
Well, I've been involved in this study for 3 years now. So we started with an initial population. And what I learned first is that it's really important to be organized with your data. And
Is it a pain in the butt to do all that data and to write it down and keep track of all that stuff when you're a researcher?
No, not necessarily. It can be, sure, if it's not organized well, but if you put it into the right format, it's not. It can be very straightforward to go ahead and analyze data, but it is certainly a lot of work.
Okay. And so is that the biggest thing, the bureaucratic stuff that you've learned out of this, is how to be organized and deal with the bureaucracy?
Well, not bureaucracy, but I think just being organized, being patient, because research takes a lot of effort and takes a long time. You don't get quick results. And learning how to multitask is really important.
Well, we all learned that in college, I think. Well, we try to anyways. Yeah. We're talking with Aaron Schumer and Dr. Victor Van Berkel from the University of Louisville, and they have been working on a research project regarding a breath test for lung cancer and also how to use that test going forward. How many patients have you tried this? I know there's been some clinical trials. How many patients have you tried this breath test on and to see about the recurrence?
So looking specifically at the recurrence was 48?
31
31
in our study.
31
Okay.
in the study looking at post-resection for doing the breath analysis on patients all told. So from a screening perspective and everything like that, we're up to 700?
I think,
Yeah.
700
Yeah,
or 800.
700
something
I
like
talked to
patients,
Dr.
yeah.
Busamer, who's working on
Yeah.
the same project that you all are working in.
It's hard to keep a running tally because we keep kind of adding more people onto it.
So what's the great news here for people who might get lung cancer or
Sure.
have lung cancer? What's the news for them in this?
So the big hope here is, so lung cancer is obviously, it's a very aggressive and very difficult disease to deal with. The majority of people, when they find out they have lung cancer, they find out almost too late. They find out after it's spread to their brain or their liver or somewhere where our options for treatment are, there still are options, but the options are, it's a much harder road for that individual. If we can find lung cancer at a very early stage, then we have a chance to cut it out and have that person do very well. And so the hope for this technology is that we'll be able to use it to identify people before they have symptoms, that sort of like a mammogram for breast cancer or colonoscopy for colon cancer, that you could go to your primary care physician, blow in a bag, and they could tell you whether or not you need to get a further test to see if you have lung cancer or not. Because if we can find it before anybody knows about it, then we have a chance to cure somebody.
And do you find that people are far more likely to go get just the easy breath test than they would be to show up for a chest x-ray or a CAT scan or whatever?
That's our hope. The current way that we test for lung cancer is with a CT scan. And, that's a little bit of a hassle. You have to go to another place and get a scan. It takes, an hour out of your time, and it's expensive, and it is a radiation dose. And I think even though we say, the insurance companies now will pay for that test, if you're over the age of 55 and you have a smoking history, you can now get a CT scan basically paid for by Medicare or by your insurance company, which you should do if you're listening and you fall into that demographic. But what we found is that even with those being paid for, sort of like colonoscopies, nobody wants to go do it.
No, I don't. I've had one, and I don't want to go back, but I know I have to.
Right.
So.
So the of the people who need it, the people who actually get it for CT scans is a small percentage. And so our hope is that this will be easy enough and cheap enough that more people will do it who need it.
So, Aaron, from your perspective going forward, what do you think the next step is for this breath test? You've looked at detecting lung cancer initially. Now you've looked at detecting recurrence of lung cancer. Is there some other use for this going forward, you think? Is there a next step?
Well, we actually haven't detected a recurrence yet, and I do think that's our next step.
Okay.
So we follow people that have been resected. So good for the patients. We have not detected a recurrence just because we haven't had one in clinic. But going forward, I think that's the goal, is to find somebody who has an early recurrence of lung cancer.
That's the next big thing. Okay. Any final thoughts on that?
No, I think
Remember.
the next big thing overall for our technology is working on a larger trial. We're working on trying to get FDA approval so that we can actually get this into the hands of the people who need
Right.
it.
Get it on the floor.
Right.
On the ground.
And that's unfortunately that's going to take a while. The FDA is appropriately very cautious about allowing people to do tests on people, which I don't begrudge them at all. But we have a lot of work to do to get to that level. But we're on our way.
Allison Banks is a hometown girl. She's a graduate of PRP, Pleasure Ridge Park High School. She's also an Etzkorn Scholarship winner at UofL, and just came back from a trip to Jordan.
Yes, I did.
Like not Jordan in a state, like Jordan overseas Jordan.
Yes,
in the
Middle
right?
East. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, welcome, Allison.
Thank you.
Good to have you. All right, let's talk a little bit about you at first. You're a, junior, senior at UofL?
I'll actually be graduating early. I graduate this December.
Okay.
And
What's your major?
I'm majoring in criminology, minoring in the Arabic language and Middle Eastern women's studies.
Oh, my. Well, we'll talk about that here in a second. What is the Etzkorn Scholarship? You won that from Arts and Sciences. What is that?
Yes, it is a honors program scholarship. So you have to have a 3.6 GPA in order to obtain the scholarship. I had to write about a 10-page dissertation on what I was going to be researching while abroad in Jordan. I researched plenty of things that I can come back and talk to the Etzkorn people about. I researched women's studies in the Middle East, Jordanian women specifically, and I also took a class Sunday through Thursday, because their week starts on Sunday instead of Monday here, in U.S. and foreign policy in the Middle East. So a lot of different things.
So you were busy.
Yes, I was.
So this scholarship was, how much money did you get to go on this trip?
You
to
could
Jordan?
get between $2,500 and $5,000 to cover your program. I got the most, $5,000 to cover my program. So all I really had to pay for was my flight over there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the trip to Jordan. Trip of a lifetime, I guess.
Yes,
I
it
assume.
was.
PRP girl goes to Jordan, right?
Yeah. Not many people expected it.
All right. So why did you want to go there? And then when you got there, what'd you find?
I wanted to go over there, obviously, because I'm minoring in the Arabic language and Middle Eastern studies. I did not know that that's what the plan was going to be at all. Usually in college, you have to take a year or 2 years of a foreign language. I didn't want to take Spanish over again. And I knew I wanted to work for the federal government one day.
Okay.
So they told me, I spoke to a lot of recruiters, and they were like, Chinese or Arabic? And I was like, well, I'm going to go with Arabic. So I came here, transferred from Kentucky Wesleyan in Owensboro, played volleyball there, transferred here, and got into Arabic. My professor is actually from Jordan, talked very, very highly of Jordan, set me up with different people, set me up with scholarships, ended up getting my scholarship, and headed there the beginning of May and just returned.
All right.
Yep.
So you've been there for almost 2 months.
6 weeks
6
is all.
weeks.
Yep.
Okay. So what did you do? What did you do while you were in Jordan, and what did you learn?
So I took, like I said, Sunday through Thursday, we had classes
Right.
from 8 to 3. I took a foreign policy class and my Arabic language, very intensive class. I walked in and was expecting a little bit of English, didn't get any.
No English at all.
Arabic
Right?
all the time, which helped tremendously.
So now you can speak fairly fluent Arabic?
A little, shway.
Enough to
Yeah,
get by?
a little, enough to get by. I can
Okay.
get where I need to go. And then we went every weekend, we would go on a different excursion. So I was with a program called ISA, International Studies Abroad, which is through UofL. Great program, great people. Would recommend it to anyone. So every weekend they had something planned for us. We went to Petra, which is now one of the newest 7 wonders of the world. It truly is. Absolutely amazing. We went to Wadi Rum, which is desert all the way. We stayed in a little camp called Jabal Camp. We got to ride camels and see the sunset in Wadi Rum. Tremendous. And then we went to Aqaba and swam in the Dead Sea. I was able to, a lot of people were scared just kind of swimming in the Red Sea.
Why?
I guess because there was no nets around us, afraid of what was going to come. And I was like, I'm in the Red Sea. I don't care. I'm snorkeling. So the guys that were on the boat that took us out were scuba diving. So they were like, I was snorkeling around, and we were looking at a sunken ship that had been there for ages. and they were swimming in the sunken ship, and they were like, come down, come down. So I got to share air with some of the snorkelers and swim through the...
That's very cool.
Yeah, and got some footage of that, so it was amazing.
We're talking with Allison Banks, who's a student at the University of Louisville and an ETSCORN scholar, and just got back from Jordan, and she's talking about that experience. You said you're taking Arabic.
Yes.
Do you want to go into the FBI or be a CIA operative? What do you want to do with that?
I will, after I graduate here in December, I want to pursue my master's degree in counterterrorism and homeland security. And with everything that's going on right now, Arabic fluency will really help me. And honestly, that's the main goal. I may start out with the Louisville Metro and be a police officer for a couple of years just to get some experience under my belt, and obviously help the Louisville community because my brother's actually a police officer here too as well.
But you'd like to go into some sort of foreign
Yes.
service or something like
Yes.
that, or intelligence, those kinds of things.
Yep.
And I'm sure their CIA is out looking for people just like you if you
I'm
can speak the
hoping
language.
so.
You better get a little bit better on the Arabic language.
I will.
When you were in Jordan, did you find that they were welcoming of Americans or not?
They were. The only problem that we had, we went to the 100th revolution or 100th anniversary of their revolution from the Ottomans. A couple people were a little eerie of us there just because it was kind of like, why are Americans here when we're trying to celebrate? But other than that, I was there during Ramadan, which is their holy month. And I mean, when they would break their fast, we had so many Jordanians just accepting us and welcoming us into their homes for dinner and to celebrate. Very, very, very encouraging of what we wanted to do, because there was about 20 of us that was there. Very welcoming and so encouraged that we wanted to learn about their culture and their language, and we really went about it in a good way. So.
And for those of those who are listening on the radio, on her left hand, Allison has this black stuff that I couldn't really tell what it was. So I asked her, "Tell me what that is and where you went to."
So while we were there, one of our professors got us invited to a traditional Muslim wedding, and very traditional Jordanian Muslim wedding. I've never seen a wedding so celebrated in my life. So traditionally, when you go to a Muslim wedding, it's also like in Indian cultures and stuff like that, they do traditional henna all over the bride's body. And if you're a part of the wedding, which some of the females and males in our ISA group were allowed to be a part of the wedding, got to dress up, have so many pictures of it. But we got to, an older Sudanese lady, did a traditional henna dye on her hands.
What's a henna dye? What is that?
So in Jordan, the rocks in Wadi Rum, actually, if there is...
And Wadi Rum's a place?
Yes, it is it's the desert
City?
that's in, yeah.
Okay.
So if you have a blue, red, purple, or black dye, is what their like makeup or henna or their traditional clothes, the color comes from. It's from the rocks in Wadi Rum, which used to be all completely underwater. So it was amazing to see. So like all the rocks have now formed into like a coral shape, and they've taken this color onto them. And all they do is they like take these cloths and these cotton balls, and they rub the rocks, and that's what they get their colors from, and that's what the dye from the henna comes from.
And it'll eventually come off your hand,
yes,
right?
it will eventually come off.
But that was a cool experience going to a traditional Muslim wedding.
It was very interesting.
Okay. What do you want to do here? You said you're going to graduate early, but what do you plan to do now that you're back at UofL? You've got, a semester or so left. What do you plan to do?
Here in August, once we start up our semester, I was just informed that I got into the ATF internship here in Louisville. So I'll be working with George Huffman there, hopefully learning, because I just finished an internship with the homicide unit with the Louisville Metro, so that was interesting. Yeah.
You should have told me that. I would have asked you about that. That would have been awesome to find out about the homicide unit at Louisville.
It was interesting to see the other side of it, because you see the media. Trust me, you see the media. But great people and truly people that just really want to help out. But the ATF I'm super excited about. Hopefully it gets me my foot in the door for the federal government, and then staying on track to graduate in December.
Very good. And what's your grade point average right now? It has to be at least a 3.6?
3.6, yeah.
Right. So you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Local girl done good, right?
Yeah.
All right. Allison Banks, thanks for being on the show. Katina Kulo is a marketing professor in the College of Business, and she's done some research on karma and how it impacts people's volunteerism and giving. Welcome, Katina. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you having me here
Sure,
today.
glad you're here. All right, what is karma? How would you define karma? I have my definition. Why don't you tell me what yours is?
So we look at karma in terms of, I guess, how Westerners define karma. And
Okay.
so I think traditionally individuals associate karma with more of an Eastern philosophy, but it's nothing that's not common to us as Westerners.
Like Buddhism or Hindu? Or that
Hinduism,
kind of stuff?
yep.
Okay.
So it's rooted in more of Eastern religions, but as Westerners, we're very familiar with this notion of karma. Just in common sayings like you reap what you sow,
Right.
or what goes around comes around, even in the popular media. There's very popular television shows from in the 2000s. There was My Name is Earl. There was Karma Chameleon by Culture Club. So we understand this concept of karma, and you hear people say it all the time. You hear them say, ooh, I might not want to do that because that'll give me bad karma, or something good happened to me, so I should have good karma. So pretty much it's kind of it's an association between your actions and then something that's going to happen in the future. So I
Right.
guess that's
Good
the
or
best
bad.
way. Good or bad, yes.
So that
for sure.
if you do something, something happens and it will be returned to you in good things, or if you do something bad, it'll be returned to you in bad things.
That is correct.
Right. Okay. So what did your study look at?
Sure. So we looked at this notion of karma, and we thought, okay, well, karma seems to make sense that it should influence our actions. And when we look at it from the good perspective, we thought, well, karma should influence people's charitable donations, how often they give, because what's more good than giving to charities? That's the way we looked at it. So we thought, okay, well, intuitively, people that believe in karma should be more likely to engage in some type of pro-social behavior. But when we look at karma, we don't just look at the action itself. So we don't look at just, do you do something good and do you expect karmic rewards? We actually look at the motivation behind, why does somebody do something good? So when you engage in some type of helping behavior, you can do it for reasons that are purely to help others, or you can do it because you're looking to receive some type of a benefit yourself. And so that's truly what we look at. So in our first study, we just looked to see, is there some type of an association between karma and likelihood to donate, likelihood to do something good? And we find that, yes, if you have a very neutral appeal that doesn't make any type of benefits to
Like
yourself.
what? Like what? Give me a for instance. Like
So-
you want to give money to the American Cancer Society or something?
That is
Okay.
exactly it. We showed them an appeal, and it said that, your donation, to help the efforts of the American Cancer Society or something general
Okay.
like that. And then we said, please donate. And so we found that we measured their belief in karma. So those that were higher on the scale were more likely to give. Very, very neutral. So then we looked at, okay, well, let's look at the motivation behind it then. So no longer are we just giving. Are you giving because you're trying to help individuals that are affected by cancer? Or are you giving because you're looking for some type of recognition? You're trying to make yourself feel better, or you're going to get some type of an incentive, a thank you, a pen or something like that. And that's where we start seeing the differences come out. So we actually found, based off of how we framed the charitable appeal, so are you going to gain yourself as a donor, or are just the recipients of the charity, are they the only ones that are going to gain? Those that believed in karma, they were more likely to give. It was more persuasive. It was focused on others versus actually helping yourself. So that's kind of the crux of what our research looked at. And interestingly, we found it actually only works for donations of time, so volunteerism, but not money. And so
Really?
We thought that was pretty neat. It actually goes hand in hand with some of the marketing research out there, which finds that there's research in our literature that we look at that shows that donations of money or priming money really kind of fosters some kind of self-sufficient behaviors. But donations of time, it just activates a different mindset. It makes you focus on happiness and kind of fosters social connections.
So I think what you're trying to say is, if I go down and work on a Habitat for Humanity house, which I do, and I believe in karma, then I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down and work on the Habitat house, thinking that at some point I might get something in return, or a lot of people think that.
As long as it's
somewhere down the road, something good is going to happen to me because I worked on this Habitat house.
Sure. If you believe in karma, and if it's not made, I guess, if you're not made aware that you are working on that Habitat for Humanity house for some type of recognition, or you're not getting something from the university, right? So you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart to help individuals have housing.
And that's why most people would work on a Habitat house.
That is right.
Okay.
That is correct.
And you found, I think, part of your study also found that people, if that they would look to help others more than they would look to help themselves, correct? That they would get more out of it? Or how you describe that segment of your study?
How they,
Wasn't, let's see. Research found that those who strongly believe in karma are more likely to give their time when they think their actions will benefit others,
Right.
not themselves.
Right, yes. So that's
Okay.
where the framing of the
Right,
appeals comes
gotcha.
in. Right, for sure.
Okay.
And actually, it's not just, and one of the things that I just wanted to point out that we thought was really neat. So one thing that charities do, and a lot of the reason we looked at this literature is because when you look out in the marketplace, charities, they do this all the time. They are very, very strategic in how they frame their appeals because they're trying to maximize donations. So you'll see some charities that will focus on how you can help yourself, and other charities will focus on how you can help others, but no one knows necessarily what's most effective. And so one thing that we looked at, though, is a lot of charities will target individuals perhaps that are within a close network of somebody that might be recently affected by something. So let's say if you have a loved one that's recently affected by some type of a cancer or some type of a health condition, they'll often solicit close family members to hopefully help out or get involved with the charity and so forth. And so actually in one of our studies, we found that if you make them aware of that, so we actually told individuals, either someone you didn't know that was in your workplace was recently diagnosed with cancer, or a family member, someone you were very close to, or your best friend was diagnosed with cancer, and we looked at, again, beliefs in karma and how that would affect their likelihood of helping. The people those that believed in karma were more likely to help when it was someone they didn't know, because they still saw it was a gain, like they were
Right.
helping themselves.
Right.
So we saw it extend beyond kind of tangible gifts and things like that to even helping close loved ones and things.
We're talking with Katina Kulo, who's a professor of marketing over at the College of Business at the University of Louisville. We're talking about karma. Do you believe in karma?
I wouldn't necessarily believe in karma in its truest form, but I will say I probably slipped out of my mouth every once in a while.
But everybody says that, though.
Yes.
I mean, you see on sports broadcast, some guy that cheated 2 minutes ago in a basketball game or hit somebody below the belt or something comes back and, gets a shot blocked or something. Well, there's karma.
Yes.
So I think everybody at least says it, and whether they believe in it.
I agree.
And what about marketing? Since you're a marketing professor, you see all these ads these days from Target, Walmart, all these big corporations talking about all the good they do in the community. And if you come, the impression is if you buy a product from us, you're helping your community and helping yourself. Is that karma, and does that work?
Well, I think a lot would just depend on how it's positioned to the marketplace. There is some research out there that shows that actually consumers do associate karma with organizations as well. So the question might come back to, are they doing it to help themselves, or are they positioning it to help others? So there's a very good chance that what we found from a donation level could actually transfer up to the corporate level. So it very well could be as well.
So it could work for a big company to prey on my heartstrings, which they do all the time, but also to say, hey, if you do good here and buy products from us, you're helping out somebody here, may help you down the road.
Possibly. I think that'd be a really neat area to study for
Well,
sure.
see, that'd be great for a marketing professor at
Yes.
the University of Louisville to talk about in one of her classes, maybe.
It would. I agree.
All right, Katina Kulo, anything else you want to add about your study that you didn't hit upon?
No, I think that's it. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate
All
it.
right, we appreciate you being on the show.
Okay, thank you.
All right, since you were in the College of Business, we're going to talk about today's little piece of trivia that I mention at the end of each show. Today's little piece of trivia is about UofL, comes from the College of Business. Did you know that a team of UofL students from the entrepreneurship program formed a company called InScope, producing a new kind of laryngoscope to probe down your throat? And that company, InScope, won a local vote award and $100,000 for further development in getting their ideas to the marketplace. And that happened this year.
That is great.
That
I
is
did
really
not
cool,
know that.
isn't it?
It is.
So now you know. We got a bunch of entrepreneurial students out there producing products and winning big awards to get it to the marketplace.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you all for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.